Emma Frost, later known as the White Queen, was born in Boston, Massachusetts to a deeply judgmental family. Even though Emma and her two sisters were powerful mutants, their oppressive father was deeply disappointed in them. Emma eventually escaped her family's oppressive control and abused her powers to excel in life. Emma's disdain for her family and disregard for rules left her in many questionable situations throughout the comics, working as a villain. Eventually, she was able to rise from her dark ways and become a central figure in the X-Men, working up to a leadership position. Her wide array of powers allows her complex story to manifest, as she is very powerful. Her main powers are telepathy, psionic blast, organic diamond form, and astral projection, all of which have their own basis in real-world science.
Psionic Blast is one of Emma Frost's amazing abilities. It's defined as painful mind blast which can injure or even kill an adversary, which comes from her ability to control minds through psychic abilities. But a huge question pops up when thinking about this ability. How does this make sense in the real world? One perspective of looking at this is through a biological lens. Psionic blasts override the human brain, ultimately damaging it through the ideology that overriding your brain with information will result in negative consequences for your memory and your health. When your brain is given too much information, such as during lectures or during work, your memory is impacted as a result of this. It becomes harder to remember and recall important aspects of a topic. Likewise, when your brain is overridden with tasks or problems, your mental health decreases because of the increase of stress. Emma Frost's psionic blast powers can be compared to the same feeling, yet amplified by hundreds of folds. Our modern-day science cannot explain how Emma uses telepathy to give information to another individual, but we can correlate the idea that Emma is able to hurt an individual by overriding their brain. Pilley, an author of an article about describing the intake of stress in our everyday lives and its impact on our brains, says, "Short-term memory is like a cup filled with ideas. It has limits. This shows us the extent that information has on our brains, and without our consciousness being able to filter non-important facts, it will overflow the cup. Using the science, we can establish that Emma uses her psychic ability to condense information and overflow the brain of an individual, being able to control how much she blasts to sedate or even kill someone."
Telepathy is a concept that humans have fantasized about for hundreds of years. It is one of the powers that Emma Frost holds. I mean, how cool would it be if one could secretly communicate with others through their mind? Those who try to prove the concept exists often look to quantum mechanics for an explanation. One popular theory is based on quantum entanglement, which is when two particles combine identities to become one occurrence, so that their properties entangle together. An idea like this was once described by Albert Einstein as spooky action at a distance. That term tells about two particles that, when placed apart, still have a physical effect on each other. Some believe that these ideas can be applied to humans too. Using quantum entanglement, two humans close together would have brains that connect. Then, using the theory of spooky action at a distance, when the people are apart, they would still have a lingering effect on each other, and possibly be able to communicate. But none of these theories have concrete evidence, and they are only ideas. Not to mention that quantum mechanics itself is still greatly unknown to us. The other largest theory to prove that telepathy exists is the idea that telepathy works like radio waves. This would mean that there are brain waves going from one person to another. But if telepathy truly acted like radio waves, then these disturbances would be detectable, and any cranial activity stops within a few centimeters of the head, so these waves just don't seem to exist. Since no waves or a way to intersect a wave has been discovered in the human brain, this theory is illegitimate. In summary, my research on the physics of telepathy concludes that as of what we know to be true today, telepathy does not and cannot exist. But even though we can't have it in the real world, people can still have fun playing with telepathy and imagined ones like Emma Frost lives in.
In order to recreate the effect of astral projection in a movie setting, the most likely method would be using chroma keying, also known as green screening. Green screening is when a character or object is filmed behind a vivid green or blue backdrop and or using painted mechanisms. These tones are chosen because they are uncommon on clothing and do not share similarities with skin tone. Using computers, editors isolate the screen and blue from the shot and remove them, leaving behind a video with a standalone person or object. Then the video can easily be modified to match the scene. In the case of Emma Frost, a filmmaker would film her in front of a green screen to isolate her from the environment, then layer the image onto the original shot and edit it to match the current scene. Another method would be to take motion capture footage of the actress to represent Emma Frost in spiritual form. Then a fully computer-generated body would be made and added to the shot in post-production. Motion capture is performed by using tracking cameras or using mechanical motion cameras. Tracking cameras work by tracking a series of markers placed on the actor's body and face and applying the gathered movement data to a three-dimensional object. It is possible to track an actor's movement without the use of these markers. Match moving software can be used to track facial features and clothing instead of using motion capture markers. The motion is then mapped onto a digital skeleton using software like Autodesk's Motion Blender, and the rest of the character is built up from there.
Hi, I'm Shasta Balmick, and my research is about Emma Frost's ability to transform her body into a flexible organic diamond form. In the form, she is translucent, retains mobility while being almost invulnerable, and is able to support incredible amounts of weight. She's also numb from emotion, pain, and empathy, impervious to cold, and resistant to heat. However, her diamond form has a single molecular flaw, which if exploited can cause her body to shatter. Let's talk about real diamonds. Diamonds have the highest hardness and thermal conductivity of any natural material because the arrangement of atoms in a diamond are rigid. What does that mean? Well, since a diamond's molecular structure is tough, if you were to be enveloped in a suit made from only diamonds, you would not be able to move, obviously contradicting the idea that she becomes flexible once in this form. To further disprove the theoretical form, steel and other rocks can be easily used to crush a diamond. Not to mention, superheating a diamond can set it on fire. So why aren't diamonds the indestructible material we all thought of them to be? Because there are cleavage planes in a diamond which are weak points in the chemical structure, therefore meaning these gems are not indestructible. So obviously this contradicts with the idea that she becomes practically indestructible once in the form. In the movies, the only way she can be hurt while in the diamond form is if she is dismembered or a diamond bullet pierces through her diamond suit, implying the only material that can cut or penetrate diamonds is other diamonds, which we know to be false. Diamonds are weighed in carats, which are about 0.2 grams, which is about the same size as a paperclip. So let's say hypothetically you were wearing a bodysuit made from just paper clips. It would feel quite heavy and therefore impractical for mobility. The practicality of a diamond suit is minimal because it would be quite heavy, which would be immobilizing after a while and can be destroyed by a steel weapon or fire. If you were to wear something like it into battle, it would act as more of an obstacle rather than an asset.
Chemistry of Emma Frost. Emma Frost has many powers, but today I'm going to talk about two main powers in her diamond form. These two powers is her being bulletproof and her ability to block telepathic waves. For bulletproof materials, I chose Kevlar. This is because Kevlar's molecular formula is C14, H14, N2, and O4. These four chemicals, or elements, are the most abundant in the human body. That is why they will be the easiest to extract and use to create a bulletproof surface. If we assume that telepathic waves are the same as radio waves or any kind of electromagnetic waves, boron nitride would be the best option. This is because boron nitride was observed to absorb electromagnetic waves, especially infrared waves, by scientists. In addition to that, boron nitride is a clear crystal, and scientists have compressed it to create a material harder than diamonds. Although boron nitride isn't found anywhere near the body, and boron itself is not a material found normally in excessive amounts in the body, boron is easily absorbed in the body through consumption. So the creation of boron nitride may be possible if she consumes enough boron. And that is all for chemistry. Thank you.
Sports med can be applied to Emma Frost's telepathy in two ways: through its relation to sports and muscles, and through its ties to medicine. Although the brain isn't a muscle, there's good reason why many people consider it to be similar to a muscle. In both cases, the use it or lose it principle applies. Emma, and by extent her brain, utilized telepathy. There have been recent studies showing evidence that a form of telepathy can apply similarly to the real world as her real powers. Psychology professor Gregor Dome has found evidence that the ability to interpret subtle social cues can be enhanced by oxycodone. Although this form of telepathy is not as extensive as Emma's, it utilizes the skills of the brain in a similar way to achieve a form of telepathy. Unfortunately, true telepathy can't be achieved in the real world. But there's a theoretical scientific basis behind telepathy. As established before, strengthening the brain's muscles gets a person closer to possible telepathy, just as Emma Frost does. The other application of sports med through telepathy is through Emma's mental healing abilities. The abilities she has listed on her wiki are as follows: mental paralysis, the ability to temporarily induce mental or physical paralysis, and trauma healing, the ability to erase a person's memories and to heal mental trauma through psychic surgery, the power to stimulate or deepen the pain and pleasure centers of a person's brain. Mental paralysis could be applied to sports med, through paralyzing broken limbs to prevent future damage or disconnection. Mental sedation could help to keep pain at bay and calm down a patient. Finally, trauma healing could work to help all aspects of medicine, as it broadly helps prevent pain and mental trauma.